summertime, summertime, summertime. It's summertime, and we live by the ocean. I grew up in Louisiana, so I was quite familiar with water. When I moved to New Jersey, there was water all around. When I spent a summer in Cape Cod, there was water there. So today, I bring to you a story by Margaret Mahy, and it's called The Great White Man-Eating Shark. Northern lived in Caramel Cove. He was 9 years old. Now, Norman was an odd-looking child. He had a pointed kind of head. He had gone bald earlier, before his time. His teeth were very sharp and pointy. And everyone told him he looked like a shark. And Norman was proud and showed his teeth. And he'd leer at people when he would practice being a shark. Norman loved to swim in Caramel Cove. And they lived across the street. So in the mornings in the summertime, he'd slather on his sunscreen. He would put on his bathing trunks and his sandals, gather up a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and some water and his beach towel, and he'd head across the street to Caramel Cove. Now everybody in the entire village loved being at Caramel Cove in the summer. So he had to look for any available space to put down his towel, and people were so close you could almost hit them on one side or the other. But it was a hot summer day, and Norman couldn't wait to get in the water. He dove in the water and he splashed around, but his favorite thing was to swim like a silver bullet through the water. But as he tried to do that, he would bump into the neighborhood kids in their floats bouncing up and down, and kids playing Marco Polo, Marco Polo, and the adults splashing and lounging in their lounge chairs. Norman didn't like it. This stinks. I want the place to myself. It's not right. I waited all summer. Now I can't even swim like a silver bullet in the water. Norman was thinking evil thoughts. He remembered, I kind of look like a shark. I have the reputation of being a shark. I've got some ideas. So Norman came out of the water, dried himself off, ate his sandwich, and then he gathered up his things and walked into town to the nearest hardware store. There he bought a leather belt, and he bought some very heavy-duty plastic and some cutting shears that could cut the plastic. He brought it home into the garage, set it on his father's workbench, and he began to cut the plastic into a shark fin. He made a groove in the belt so that the shark fin could slide upon it. And then he took another small piece of leather so that he could make a harness to wear this shark fin. I'm gonna have the best summer ever. Next day, he gathers up all of his things and he puts that shark fin contraption into a special bag. He walked across the street and laid down his towel and noticed it was busy as ever. He started into the water and realized he was bumping into everybody and he couldn't swim and he couldn't have his own good time. He climbed out of the water and took the bag over behind the rocks on the inlet. Put the contraption on and put his shark teeth out, and he dove into the water around the inlet and into Caramel Cove. And he would swim this way and that way until Mrs. Green was bouncing in the water. And when she saw the fin, she screamed out, "Shark! Shark!" She flew out of the water and landed on her stomach on the beach, pounding it down. "Shark! Shark!" And the lifeguard blew the whistle and everybody was out of the water. Norman was swimming like a silver bullet in the empty Caramel Cove. Then he went around the inlet when all the excitement died down, and he took off his contraption and put it in the bag, came innocently back to the beach, and ate his sandwich. While everybody was shivering and scared to get back in the water. Well, that worked for about 5 days. He had the whole beach to himself. Nobody was coming back. But the heat wave was coming through town. And no one could resist going back to Caramel Cove, and they did just that. Norman was distraught. "They came back! They ruined my swimming place!" So again, he went around to the edge, strapped the contraption on, and started swimming with the shark fin through the water. This time, Mr. Green, the plumber, was doing a handstand to show his children how excellent he could do it. And his feet were up in the air, and his eyes were below the water when Norman, with his best shark impersonation, came by. Mr. Green shot out of the water, and he landed on his back on the beach, screamed, "Shark! Shark! Shark!" And everybody said, "Oh no, not again, not again!" And the lifeguard blew the whistle, and they all went out. It was a pattern for several days. Another day he came back to swim and enjoy, but the people had returned. He went to the edge of the inlet, strapped the shark fin on. He went into the water. But a real great white man-eating shark had entered the cove as well that day. Norman was going back and forth like a silver bullet on the edge, and the lifeguard had blown the whistle to get everyone out of the water because he saw 2 fins, not 1. When the great white man-eating shark came by, it was a female shark. She saw Norman and gave him the eye. Norman realized it was a real great white man-eating shark. He flew out of the water now and landed on the beach with his fake shark fin and all. And everybody gathered round and realized he had deceived them most of the summer and taken away their fun time. But Norman was screaming, and he was shouting, and he was kicking. He didn't notice the people. But the lifeguard spoke, "Norman, you are banished from Caramel Cove for the rest of the summer." Norman didn't care. He was petrified now. He went back home, and he hid in his room. And he pined away the rest of the summer, shivering and shaking. And if he did walk by the beach, he always looked out. He was fearful of the great white man-eating shark.